And now to Kamoshida. To Tsuguru Kamoshida. Why he's deserving this distinction. Well, I said I'm going to have to spoil stuff. I'm going to have to spoil a ton of stuff. It's unfortunate, but it's necessary. So you understand exactly why this is meaningful. Why this is important now. You'll need to know every single detail. Every minute of why it is important. And to do so, said, I'll be shattering one of my most important conduct. So, let's get to this. Well, so I'm going to have to spoil a good chunk. One of my favorite pieces of media. The video game Shin Megami Tensei Persona 5. Because that's the video game he first appears in. Now, before I go any further though, I should say, you know something. The Shin Megami Tensei series and its spin-offs are almost universally rated R, or rated M, for mature, when they are translated or localized to the United States of America. There is one or two that have been rated as teen. And there is good reason. There are some dark, very mature subject matter in these games. Many of which are, well, problematic for some amongst you. They can cause very great distress. So, I'm going to have to give you some content warnings here. And let anyone who is watching, anyone who's listening, know that if any of these things can cause you panic attacks, flashbacks, or any major distress, I suggest you leave now. You turn off this recording. Change the channel, change the website. Do whatever you need to get away from this. But if you can deal with these things, if you have little to no problems with this, or if you are willing to risk it, to risk the distress and problems, because this is important, you can stay. But if you are that second group, be prepared to leave, to turn off your device, to change everything, to out of this immediately. Because I don't want anyone to suffer from this. So I'm going to be. So, content warning for this. For police brutality, corruption of courts and laws, corruption of government, abuse, child abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, human trafficking, suicide, child neglect, and rape. So anyone who has problems is going to be caused by that kind of content, leave now. To give, and for those who might be here, I give you time. So, to do so, I shall explain a bit about this series. For those who will be staying, so they have context. Well, the Shin Megami Tensei series is, well, has as a whole, many common, themes or tropes. First of all, they are incredibly difficult. It is quite possible to go into a battle fully prepared and still get your ass kicked. The RNG is not with you. It hates your guts and wants you to die in a humiliating a way as it is possible to do so. Second of all, the setting. The Shin Megami Tensei series is most commonly set in, Japan, in a modern or near modern setting. Some of them go back to being like 1920s, some in a near future, but usually somewhere that's, recognizable for the most part. And in this world, creatures of folklore, myth, and legend exist and influence the world around them. In addition, the series is known as being one of the earliest and longest lasting franchises in the monster raising and capturing genre. Two of the most famous and well-known franchise of is the Pokemon series. The Shin Megami Tensei series has commonly been referred to as Pokemon for adults. Speaking of which, yes, adult themes. Very mature themes. And I'm not talking about blood and gore, or nudity, or suggestive themes, or anything of that kind. But even though most of them have at least some of one of those, and usually several of them. No, I'm talking about deep moral dilemmas, philosophical quandaries, loads of gray and all sorts of shades. It is rare for there to be any decision that could be categorized as black or white. In addition, that means also that there's another trait of the series that's important, and that is player agency. At points in the storylines of most of these games, the player will have a choice, and it is an important choice. It is not a "but thou must" type one, categorized by having options, but one of them just makes you repeat the question and the answer until you choose the, quote, correct one. No, these choices change things. Send the story and events in different directions, wildly, radically different indeed. Which means these games often have multiple endings, depending on how things were chosen and where things went. In addition, in a second playthrough, it is quite obvious, you're quite capable of facing off and opposing groups that you were allied with in the previous one, and even fighting and killing characters that you were friends with in that first playthrough. Now, the Persona series is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei, and adds a few new tropes to it. First of all, the protagonist and playable characters are usually young people, usually high school students. And they are coming face to face with a crisis that they have found out about. No one else can out, and have found a source of it, but no one would believe it, for that source is supernatural. No ordinary person would believe it. I mean, would you believe it if I were to tell you that there are more than 24 hours in a day? Every night at midnight, The dark hour begins. Most people cannot experience it, for they are physically locked into coffin-like boxes during that time. But those who have the potential can experience it. And they are in terrible danger. Because monsters roam this time. And if one of them gets a hold of you, attacks you, then when the dark hour is over, you will be afflicted with apathy syndrome. You will no longer act, no longer move, no longer think or feel. You will simply exist until you don't any longer. But those with the potential can awaken to a power that can let them fight these monsters, defeat them, and explore this strange time in this strangely distorted way. There are distorted things that appear in it. Hopefully find some way of ending it and its threat forever. You wouldn't believe that, would you? I mean, who would? I mean, nobody would. I mean, nor would you believe the rumor of a midnight channel. If you were to look into a television set when it is turned off at midnight on a rainy night, you will see your soulmate. And if one were to do that, someone would appear on that screen. But they are not your soulmate. They are the next victim. And if someone with the potential were to come into contact with a television screen, they would go right through it, as though it were not there. With a big enough screen, they could go into it completely. They could take someone else who has not the potential with them. They could even just put someone random in it on their own. Inside, on the back side of the television screen, is a world covered in fog, filled with monsters, shadows. Anyone without the potential thrown in here is in mortal peril, but not from those shadows, but from their own, because this world makes that part of them manifest physically. And that shadow seeks to make its host, the original, deny it. Brings up terrible truths about that person's real feelings. The things that they don't want people to know. That they don't want anyone to even know. And they won't even accept as a part of themselves. But the shadow will keep bringing up those truths and trying to get it, to do it, to deny it. Deny it's a part of themselves. And when those words are screamed, "You're not me!" the shadow gains its own agency, the ability to determine its own actions. And angered, the denial will distort to a terrible creature with berserk rage blazing in its golden eyes as it advances upon its denier. And then, after the fog clears in the real world, they will be found unharmed, unblemished, but unmistakably unliving. And 2 young women have died this way, and a third has gone missing. You wouldn't believe that, would you? No one would. I mean, imagine taking that to, say, a police detective and telling them the reason 2 people have died is because someone put them in a TV and they were killed by their own suppressed selves. You wouldn't believe it at all. No matter what. It wouldn't matter who told it to you. You wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it even if it came from your own family, your own nephew. You wouldn't believe it. mean, when would you, yourself, out here in this world, believe something like that? Yeah. Yeah, Crisis, the supernatural origin, is an important part of this. Next up on that is, well, the Persona series is also a mixture of two genres of video game. The dungeon crawling Japanese style role-playing video game, as well as a social simulation game. Because in addition to crawling around through some strange world or time, trying to stop this terrible crisis, you're a high school student, and you have to participate in, normal, everyday high school things. You've got to, go practice with your sports team, go to band practice or drama club practice. You have to, go on school trips, celebrate holidays with your family and friends, hang out with those family and friends, and people in the community. Get a part-time job so you have cash to do stuff. Oh, and of course, study for, tests and stuff, and take those tests, it's not really that important, So, there's that. But the most important part of the Persona series is its themes. Each game has multiple themes. And those themes are very, very, very important.